Hey, so in this video, what I want to show you is the business model breakdown of how I'm bringing in 30K a month, basically with these little alterations of the model. Some of you may have seen a few other videos. If not, I'll drop the full model below. This is more on sort of the structure of a key sort of finding that helped me sort of onboard more clients, build more leverage without actually having to bust myself for time. So I'm excited to show you all things subscriptions. Anyway, so what most high ticket business models do that I've seen around, and I, more so linger on LinkedIn, but I assume the same applies on Instagram, on Facebook, and so on, is high ticket used to go something like this, right? Like you get 100 leads from running some ads, from doing organic, from, DM setting or whatnot that requires sort of scaling a little bit of a bigger team. And then of those, let's say 10%, so 10 of them booked calls, of which 5 of them show up if I'm being generous. And then of those, you make 2 sales. And, that could be really, really profitable for some people, but then you're scaling overhead costs and you have to sort of encounter the follow-ups and the no-show rates and all of that. And you got to keep spreadsheets and high cortisol and lots of coffee to keep you going, right? So who here has seen or done this sort of model before? My question is, and always has been, what happens to these 98 leads over here? If you got 2 sales, do you just sort of dump them or try to follow up with them? Maybe try to convince them to come to a follow-up call or whatever that may be. For me, this sort of thing creates a little black hole, right? Because I was like, I'm very, very curious how you deal with them, or do you just rank up more ad spend, etc. So anyway, so for me, this is where I burst this sort of type of acquisition, which worked really well. Basically, that has external and internal acquisition. And we'll go through all of this, and hopefully this will make sense. So similar to the high ticket business model that we just went through, whether you choose to run organic or ads or any of that sort of thing here, you might have existing assets that you use. You might choose Facebook ads or, LinkedIn organic or whatever that may be. What I love doing is sending them to a simple landing page. A lot of people in the past have done video sales letters and whatnot. To me, it's sort of like a little opt-in that I've shared in the previous video with my Modern Maker OS. But the opt-in just basically has a video, it indoctrinates them into a concept, has some text, and then it makes them an offer. That's why I call it the micro snack cartel, because you give them a small snack and then they come back and they want a bigger snack, right? So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of what the actual micro snack does. You can check some of the other stuff, but think of it like a landing page. It gives you a little offer, and then eventually you get to this sort of subscription-based offer. And there's 3 things that make it an easy yes, right? Like for me, it has always been getting a yes, getting a customer, not a client, because it's so much easier to market to customers than clients, right? The old way. And especially when you want to run a business without taking any sales calls per se. So the number one thing that I have changed is introduce trials. Before, I used to run a weekly pricing model. So it was like 100 a week. Let's say for a year, there's 52 weeks in a year. So that's $5,200 per year to come and join this mastermind, this community, this whatever it is. So you can toy with having $250 a week, or $50 a week, or $20 a week, or whatever that is. Generally speaking, weekly recurring revenue, because it's a smaller number, is easier to sell than a 5K offer straight off the bat. But one thing that I did that worked really well for me was introduce these trials. So what I do is I go, for example, it's a 9 trial. So it's $1 a day for 9 days, followed by $50 a week moving forward after that. So I've mentored other people who might do a free trial and then it's $100 a week or whatever. You are the architect here, you get to pick, or you have a $1 trial for 7 days or whatever, and then it rolls into 50, 100, whatever the common denominator for weekly recurring is. And we set those up using automations, right? Like I love using Thrivecart, for example. It just handles all of these little nitty-gritty things. I've heard GHL does the same thing, or Samcart. If you're just using Stripe, you can't do this trial mechanism, but there's so many checkout or payment providers out there that would be able to do that. Number 2 is pricing, right? We just talked about weekly recurring. On these sales pages, I'm really explicit that it is a weekly recurring revenue, and sure, there is churn and you can have a back-end offer or an incentive. Like for me, for the longest time ever, let's say I ran the 100 a week model, it's 5.2K if we do the math over 52 weeks. But if you pay today in full, it's 3K. So you get to fiddle with that sort of pricing over here and, get more yeses in the back. But having a weekly retainer is what gets people to say an easy yes, right? And I'll explain more of that in a second and what comes into that. The third lever on this page is the cancel anytime word, right? So for me, before I used to get like really pedantic on not being able to cancel, right? Or having a contract or whatever. And in the info space, when you're selling coaching and consulting, cancel anytime is where it's at. Like, don't want to hold anybody hostage. They can come in, they can see, they can leave at any time. And obviously it's your job to provide the most value you can. And people might turn around and say, Jacob, I'm not into that sort of stuff. And that is absolutely a-okay, right? Like this is just what's working for me in this moment in time to acquire externally sort of leads and turn them into customers, and then from customers to clients. And it's what's bringing the 30K per month, over the last, I would say, 2 years or so. But these little additions to the model are what's changing the behavior as people become more and more sophisticated. So when you opt into that snack cartel, I've shown you in the previous model, I have a series of emails that I use to nurture people. And then after that nurture sequence is done, I basically send them a daily email. But if you get to this checkout page over here, I get to collect your name and I get to collect your email, right? If for whatever reason you do not buy the weekly, that's fine. You then get a series of emails here. Some people might do like an abandoned cart sequence and sort of try to get you in there. Others might have like a 5-day email course to show you what their models look like. In my world, I prefer that more educational approach because you're not sort of chasing them, but you could do abandoned cart and then get them to this sort of checkout page here. So our page is becoming more and more yellow. Hopefully you're getting where this is at. So before I get into this next bit, I want to take a little pause here and show you how you would deliver that, right? So hopefully here you can see what I mean by delivery. In my world, I use School, but other students I mentor have used like Circle or Heartbeat or Kajabi. It doesn't really matter. I simply like School because it has a little bit of gamification and it has like leaderboards and things like that. And Sam Ovens is a genius who took and created School through like the whatever worked best on Facebook. So anyway, what I do with my delivery with this sort of weekly recurring subscription model is I have the community. There are calls per se, and then you've got courses. So what I'm doing essentially is the community allows interactivity. The calls sort of glue things together. We meet once a week. And then inside the course, you don't give everybody everything for that $9 trial or, $1 trial. You want to gamify it in a way that feels really good, right? So for example, here with me, I've currently got like over 200 members in here, and inside the classroom, it's tiered in a way where you can say like start here, then you get yourself a quick win, and then all of these little bits and pieces start to unlock the more you do, right? So it's really fun because then you can also see the leaderboards and who's participating and who's doing whatnot. So a big piece for it for me is like the gamification, because number one, you don't want to overwhelm people, and number two, you want to give them a reason to take action, right? And you reward action takers. Think Netflix business model. What does Netflix do? They give you a whole bunch of new videos every month. And new TV series, and they always sort of keep you on your toes, even though you may have watched like 1 or 2 episodes per month, right? I myself have been paying for Netflix and Spotify and these sort of subscription services in the same way. The other big thing that also happens on the delivery is the pipeline. So again, learning from Netflix and these sort of big dogs is, I always like saying what is going to come up, right? So you can see here, I'm like, August to September, this, and this is coming up. Tomorrow, I'm actually doing this micro snack cartel workshop. So I'm informing people of what is coming up, which is always nice, to show people sort of, the ins and outs of where I am, what is coming next, again, borrowed from the Netflix business model. And that increases retention, also creates glue within the community and allows people to sort of mingle. Other things that you can do is like have a member of the month. I know my handwriting is horrendous here and I can't spell month. You can have a member of the month. People feel included, people feel another incentive to sort of keep going. And then the most critical bit here, which we will do in green, starting to love remarkable, don't know if you guys enjoy it, is have a map. When you have a roadmap and you go, first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, next we're going to do this, they feel that sense of future pacing, they feel that sense of clarity, they know exactly what they're doing next, and it makes the experience so much more funner to follow along, right? So give somebody a map and they will be a happy bean. So for example, here or in Modern Maker or any sort of program that you have, I might be like, okay, the majority of you are here, and what we need to do in my world is first we set up a Google Doc offer, next we install our micro snack cartel so we can take leads to customers and then to clients, and that's sort of like an automated little funnel that creates passive income. And then once you've done that, the next phase is getting traffic, right, from organic or with low-cost ads. So you have this first, next, then visualization. So the same way we sort of did that over here with the hops, you get to create like a little map for the people that are here at 5K. Or, it could be weight loss and then you're going to lose 5 kilos, or put muscle and you're going to gain, or whatever your map looks like. First, next, then, future pace, then works like wonders. Then for me, I've got something called the inner circle. So somebody who's coming into this subscription inside this tier already knows there's something different. And the people in here in inner circle know there's also something different once you get to something else, which, gives them that continuity, gives them a reason to retain themselves, right? Because the number one reason for churn is lack of clarity. So a lot of people might be thinking here like, hey, Jacob, what is going to happen? Like, how are you doing the 30K if these little numbers are really small? So I've done some videos in the past about this little thing I call the proximity offer. So what I've just shown you is basically external marketing, right? So all of that stuff is external. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the internal side of marketing. So for me, one of the most important things is this little watermelon, eggshell, onion looking thing is something I call the proximity ladder, right? So this is internal marketing. When somebody goes through this entire funnel and they get here, they are now a client, right? but we can tier the levels of proximity, and the closer they get to you, the more they pay. For example, somebody might opt in to a training, come to a workshop that's live, or buy a digital product. And what you do over there is basically you create assets, right? Recordings of some sort. And they're once off, could be $1 to $100 or whatever that is. Now, my ecosystem grows because of this proximity ladder, because once somebody comes in at, let's say, $50 a week over here, that is in the group tier, right? So this group tier, let's say it is 50, is going to give me recurring revenue. I've got, 100 or something people in there doing that tier. But of that tier, there are some others who may want more proximity to me. They want faster access. So what I do is I'm like, hey, you can come in here, you can have, this school group plus some Discord access where we have an extra call a week and you get Discord. So that is also a level of proximity that requires more money to get in there, and you have less people in there, but it also unlocks more revenue. And then you can have one-on-one access. So some people might want to work with me one-on-one, where I mentor them, and that is again done with you. But I also introduce done for you, where I install these little systems and emails and funnels and stuff for them. And out of these, we birth events. So one-to-many people come over to my place, or have online events. I get equity partnerships where I write emails for others. Like, had somebody last year make 2 million and I took 5 to 10% in equity, like rev share, not of the company, but partner. And then through that, obviously I use tools that I'm very familiar with, and anybody who wants to use those tools, I've got little links, or anybody who uses School or Kit or whatever payment service provider, obviously it doesn't pay crazy amount, but the more the number adds up, the more affiliate deals you get. And also referrals, like I give people 10% kickback for any referral. So when you keep your customers happy, they refer. So for me, just to put it in perspective, this is what sort of increases the revenue, and you can, increase that to match your capacity, like you are the architect. But it is this proximity ladder that unlocks a lot of that I wanted to show you. So a lot of people get fixated on this bit over here, and then the final boss is almost like unlocking this proximity ladder, which is awesome when you install that in a subscription model. So going back to our little initial model where we talked about what I call the hustle bros who do the GMs and get people to book calls, they basically get someone from a lead to become a client. And to me, that is sad face over here. But when you don't allow for those leads, remember we have the 98 leads that we forgot about at the beginning of this video. We don't want to put them through a black hole. We want to take them and we want to make them customers by selling them little snacks, right? Or giving them low cost recurring subscriptions, right? Because then it's so much easier to turn a customer into a client because they've already transacted with you. They've shown intent, right? So you're also making more money and increasing your lifetime value for these people and the average order value of each subscription, right? So what I wanted to leave you with today is lead customer to client is how the subscription model works, and we get happy face. So hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, you can drop them down below. I'm a very, very big believer in subscription models in general. It's how I run my business. When you show up with monthly recurring revenue, it's a very different energy than this whole feast and famine cycle. So I did want to share that with you. I will leave some bits in the description below as well if you want to check them out, and the trials as well. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.